Ladies and gents, my name is Xander, aka Deislayers, and in this video, we're going to go ahead and discuss and review a fairly new legendary Vanguard hand cannon, and it's called the Service Revolver. For those of you Guardians out there who want to get your hands on this thing ASAP, the good news for all of us is that all we gotta do is simply reach rank 35 via turning in Vanguard tokens to Zavala. Now, in order to reach rank 35, that's going to cost you 700 Vanguard tokens, and so I'm not going to lie, that is a little bit of a grind, but let me assure you that that grind is certainly worth the effort, and that's because this Service Revolver has one of the best shot rhythms and one of the best recoil directions that you could possibly ask for on any hand cannon in Destiny 2. The reason as to why this is what we're going to get into in just a second, but we're also going to discuss the weapon's PvP stats, the weapon's base stats, the weapon's perks, and lastly, we're then going to analyze as to why I personally believe that this hand cannon right here is the best 180 rate of fire hand cannon that you will ever find in this game. The only thing left to do is to eviscerate that subscribe button, and let's jump right into the video. The very first thing I want you guys to know about the Service Revolver is actually something dealing with all 180 rate of fire hand cannons, and that is that in the previous March update, these things were only doing 47 points of damage in the head, whereas now with this brand new update, they're doing 50 points of damage in the head, and the reason why this is so significant is because now all 180 rate of fire hand cannons only require 4 critical headshots to achieve the weapon's optimal headshot time to kill. This is exactly what's happening with the Service Revolver, as this thing is now doing 50 points of damage in the head and anywhere from 31 to 32 points of damage in the body. And as to why this fluctuation is in the body shot damage, I'm not really sure, but just keep in mind that for this weapon's computations of body shot TTK, I'm going to take the weapon's lowest damage output for body, and that is 31 points of damage. Understanding this, we can now go ahead and compute the weapon's optimal headshot time to kill and the body shot time to kill respectively. Looking at headshots and headshots only, the Service Revolver, as I mentioned from before, only takes 4 critical headshots to achieve a 1.0 second optimal headshot TTK. My friends, that is a phenomenal optimal TTK, and the reason why this is because that's actually faster than that of a Graviton Lance, and possibly faster than even that of a Vigilance Wing, and so if you were wondering whether or not this thing could actually compete in the Crucible, the answer is resounding 110% yes. Taking a look at body shots and body shots only, this thing then requires 7 body shots, which is going to associate to a 2.0 second body shot TTK. Averaging these two things together by taking 1.0 and 2.0 and dividing by 2, the overall average time to kill on this Service Revolver is 1.5 seconds. And so the good news right there is that this thing is very, very promising in respect of whether or not you're getting headshots or body shots, because regardless of whichever one that you're getting, this thing still has a very, very good overall TTK to compete with other meta weapons such as the Anti-OD, the Vigilance Wing, the Last Hope, the Graviton Lance, you name it, whatever's the meta, this thing can still compete. Having said that, what I will say is that the Service Revolver is limited to certain range engagements, and what dictates this is the weapon's overall base stats in correlation with the weapon's range, its aim assistance, its recoil direction, and its stability. The reason why these 4 stats are so unbelievably important is because range is then going to dictate as to all the ranged engagements and the range scenarios in which this weapon is most viable in. In correlation with this, the weapon's stability, aim assistance, and recoil direction are just as vital, and that's because on 180 rate of fire hand cannons, those 3 stats dictate the weapon's shot rhythm. With these particular hand cannons, the recoil direction is almost vertical, and so what you really have to keep in mind is the weapon's overall thickness, because that thickness could potentially block the weapon's overall line of sight, and so if you want to be able to land consecutive shots back to back to back and have them be critical headshots, that thickness and recoil direction is extremely important to understand and grasp, because like I said from before, it really does block your line of sight. Understanding this, you guys can now understand the weapon's base stats more clearly, and as you guys see right there, the weapon's range is at 39 out of 100, its stability is at 57 out of 100, has an aim assistance at 67, and has a recoil direction at 88. Of all four of these base stats, the range factor is clearly the weakest, and so what this ultimately means is that this thing is only going to be viable in those close and mid-range engagements, but the good news here though is that the stability, aim assistance, and recoil direction all have glorious and phenomenal values, which basically means that this thing has one of the best shot rhythms out of any other 180 hand cannon or any other hand cannon in general that you will ever find in Destiny 2. Taking a brief look at the weapon's overall cons, you have handling speed at 38 out of 100, a reload speed at 37 out of 100, and a magazine size only at 9. With a rate of fire at 180 rounds per minute, that magazine size is going to go extremely fast, and so normally you would want a very fast reload speed, but clearly that's not the case on the Service Revolver. In addition to this, the handling speed is also terrible, and so if I was you guys, I would highly recommend that you guys use a handling speed masterwork, and that's because that's really going to give you a very fast aim down sight time, and you're going to need that for those close and mid-range engagements. The reason why I'm not so worried about the weapon's overall reload speed or the magazine size is because of one in particular perk on this weapon, and it's called Outlaw. Outlaw states that precision kills greatly decrease the reload time, and as you all know, I am a huge fan of this perk because I can't tell you as to how much that I am an aggressive player, and for me, I'm going to run through these bullets extremely fast, and as long as I'm getting those critical headshots, I'm then going to proc Outlaw, and essentially what I have is an infinite magazine. Because what Bungie did with Outlaw is they made it so that every single time that you proc it, it automatically resets, and there is no longer a cooldown on the overall timing that you can proc Outlaw. If we're talking about landing critical headshots and then proccing Outlaw, the next best thing about the Service Revolver is that it's classified as a precision frame weapon, and precision frame states that this weapon's recoil pattern is more predictably vertical. To be more precise, this perk is exactly the same thing as Counterbalance was back in the day from Destiny 1, and it converts 80% of horizontal recoil to vertical recoil, making the weapon much more manageable, and thus proccing more headshots, thus proccing Outlaw, and making this thing an unstoppable beast. When you combine this with the fact that this thing already has an aim assistance at 67 and a marvelous recoil direction at 88, its recoil pattern is almost vertical and vertical alone, allowing you to land crit after crit after crit, and I can tell you from personal experience that this thing eradicates, devastates, and truly annihilates Guardians, making the enemy team a little bit salty. With this information, you guys now know the intrinsic perks that are found in the Service Revolver, but what you don't know is the choosable perks that you guys can pick from, and let's go ahead and discuss the bullet perks first, which is either armor piercing rounds or accurized rounds. Armor piercing round states that bullets fired from this weapon cause extra damage to shields and over-penetrate targets, giving a slight boost in range. On the other hand, we have accurized rounds. An accurized round states that this weapon can fire longer distances, implying that the weapon's range is increased significantly. Of these two perks, accurized rounds is hands down the best option here, and that's because it's going to give you that largest increase in range, which is not only going to give you better damage fall off at greater distances, but it's also going to give you a better increase in the aim assistance, regardless of whether or not you're actually aware of this, as that's something more of like a hidden stat. The very last thing that you guys can choose from on this weapon is a hand cannon sight, and that either includes True Sight or Crossfire. True Sight is a balanced hand cannon sight that slightly boosts the range, stability, and handling speed consecutively. Inversely to this is Crossfire, and it's a sharp hand cannon sight that gives a large boost in range while decreasing stability and handling speed simultaneously. Of these two sights, I personally am using True Sight, and that's because I don't want a decrease in the weapon's stability, nor do I want a decrease in the weapon's handling, because those two things are very important, especially for my very aggressive playstyle. Now for those of you who want the best overall increase in range, then Crossfire is hands down the best way to go, but just keep in mind that you're going to get that very large decrease in stability and handling speed, which is not going to be good for other range engagements, in which I believe that this Service Revolver is most ideal for. With this knowledge, you guys now know all the weapons perks, and so the very last thing that I want to say about the Service Revolver is to kind of give you guys an idea as to what you should pair with this weapon. And if I was you, I would highly recommend using something like a scout rifle or a pulse rifle, because those two weapons are then going to obviously easily be able to get those cross map and long range distances, which is where the Service Revolver simply cannot even touch. throughout this game footage, you've probably seen me using the Polaris Lance every now and then, and that's exactly what I would use with this weapon, but by all means, feel free to go ahead and use a different scout rifle or a different pulse rifle, as anything that covers that long range distance is an ideal weapon to complement this hand cannon. All in all, if I had to say whether or not this weapon was good, bad, or neither, I would say it's phenomenal and definitely the best 180 rate of fire hand cannon that you will ever find in Destiny 2. Its stability, aim assistance, and recoil direction give it the best overall shot rhythm that you can possibly ask for. However, I will say that it's going to take you guys a little bit of time to get the hang of it due to the weapon's overall thickness and the way in which it loses the line of sight, but once you get the hang of that, this thing is going to eradicate, decimate, and truly obliterate every guardian in its path. With this spectacular and glorious shot rhythm, you're then going to land a lot of critical headshots, and because of this, you're then going to proc Outlaw. That's then going to allow you to overcome 2 of the 3 weaknesses that are found on these 180 rate of fire hand cannons, and so the only thing that you're going to have to worry about is the handling speed. So as long as you guys can get past that handling speed and how weak that is in that respect, this thing is definitely a very well-rounded hand cannon, and it would possibly make my top 5 hand cannon list. Having said all these things, let me know what you guys think about the service revolver down in the comment section below, whether you agree with my assessment or you disagree, or whether you're kind of lying somewhere in between, as you can definitely guarantee that I'm going to read all your comments, and I'm really interested to hear your feedback, because one thing's for sure, that this 180 rate of fire hand cannon is definitely very, very surprising, and it's going to make the enemy team say, what the heck did I just get killed by? Lastly, go ahead and check out some of my other new videos, as you guys can see right there on the screen. If you happen to enjoy this one, then you're definitely going to enjoy this as well. That's pretty much all that I've got for you as of right now, and so as always, Deislayers, great gaming, until next time.